Have you ever heard someone say, "I'm fine," when they're clearly not fine? How did you know something was off? Now, you're probably aware that nonverbal cues like vocal tone, facial expressions, and body language have a huge impact on the way that we come across to listeners. So in this video, I want to share a really powerful exercise and quick exercise that you can do to get better acquainted with your own nonverbals, particularly in today's video on understanding your own vocal tone. Because you can say all the right words in the wrong tone and totally derail a situation or undermine your credibility if you're talking about a professional circumstance. Or, big one, create mismatch in your relationships where people are confused about what you're actually thinking or feeling because you're saying words but your voice is misaligned. And sometimes that's because your emotion behind it is actually misaligned. You don't actually believe the thing that you're saying. But sometimes it's really just a matter of habit. Maybe you do believe what you're saying and you're not feeling the emotion that's coming across in your voice, but inadvertently, your vocal tone is suggesting something different. And that can create issues. So that's why today I wanted to record a video sharing a very simple but very powerful exercise that I just did in a corporate training the other day. And I thought everyone needs to try this because it's really helpful in so many ways. My name is Trisha Veldman. I'm the founder of Powerful and Poised, and I am a speech, communication, and confidence coach. I love helping people master both the art and science of self-expression. And just the other day, I did a corporate training where we went in and talked about a communication reboot, if you will. There was a lot of passive aggression, a lot of toxic patterns, and I was brought in to help resolve some of those patterns. And it was so much fun and very illuminating for everyone involved. So if your company, your organization, or if you know someone whose organization may benefit from that, please reach out. And then if you're interested in improving your own communication on your own time, please check out my online course called Show Up Shore's Secrets to Embody Confidence for a Lifetime, or check out some of my other videos on overcoming social anxiety and mastering public speaking. But for today's video, we're going to talk about vocal tone. And a really fun, easy way that you can get to know the way that your own voice is sounding and learn how to adapt that to communicate in a way that feels aligned with how you actually want to express yourself. So here's what you're going to do. I'm going to give you a phrase, and then you're going to close your eyes, and you're going to imagine someone saying that phrase in various tones. I'll tell you what tone to envision. Okay, so the phrase we're working with is, "I need this by the end of the day." And this is common in corporate culture, but it also could happen in your relationships. Maybe your husband says, "Hey, I need you to do this by the end of the day," or your wife is asking you to do something, or your child, or you're a parent and you're talking to your children. It can happen in personal relationships as well as in more professional relationships, probably more often with this particular verbiage, but the exercise is applicable to all. So the phrase is, "I need this by the end of the day." Now close your eyes, and I want you to envision and hear someone saying that phrase, "I need this by the end of the day," but with a really snappy, rushed tone. And feel how it makes you feel when you hear that. Now, same sentence, "I need this by the end of the day," but imagine it in a really passive-aggressive or annoyed tone. And how does it feel when you hear that? Now, imagine the same phrase, "I need this by the end of the day," in a very polite, neutral, maybe even warm tone. And how does that feel? Now, when I introduced this exercise during the workshop, I was really doing it just to bring awareness to how things feel and sound and how intuitive most of us naturally are. You know how to just hear that voice because we all experience those things all the time. And intuitively, we tend to know when something feels off. But what I didn't expect, and what was the impetus for me sharing this video, is so many people said on the third one, the warm, neutral, cordial version, they said they changed the words. They added a please. Their body softened. They added a smile. And I thought that was really powerful because it shows how we can adjust not only the tone, but how changing the overall tone can influence the words that we say and the way that our body feels as well. So a question people often ask me is, well, how do I phrase this? Or I don't know the exact words. And the tricky thing about that is that the wording is going to be different every time. So if you're not sure how to word something in a way that's going to come across the way that you want it to come across, do this exercise. Imagine saying it multiple different ways, and imagine saying it ways that you don't want to say it. The reason for doing the passive aggressive version is to have something to contrast with the ideal version. So take the phrase that you want to say, try it multiple different ways. If you really don't want to come across as angry, try it angry first. Let it out. Try it that way. If you really don't want to come across as desperate, try it really desperate and see what happens. And then when you do the target version, okay, I want to come across this way, you naturally may start editing the words and you naturally may change your face. A lot of people, when they do the neutral or warm version, they will start to softly smile and notice their body relax a little bit. When we do the passive aggressive one, it might be more tense. And so this is a really powerful way to tap into your own physical sensations that arise while you're speaking. And when you have that awareness, then it becomes a lot easier to adjust in the moment. So if, for example, you're in the middle of a conversation and you're getting kind of annoyed or frustrated, but you really don't want to come across as rude or snappy or passive aggressive or whatever, when you feel your body going to the place that it went when you did that exercise, then you can stop yourself in the moment and say, no, I'm going to choose this other version. But often that happens in the body and in the mind far sooner than it happens in the voice. The voice is the last thing that comes out, right? And it's the hardest to control because it's the most subconscious. And so this will bring your awareness to your body, which will help bring your awareness to the voice itself. Now, if you really want to dive into this and have a lot more awareness of your own speaking voice, there's no better way to do it than to actually voice record yourself and listen back to it and just play around with different variations of the exact same phrase. If I say it this way, how does it sound? If I say it that way, how does it feel in my body? And what's so interesting and fascinating about this is I have been doing this work for 10 years, and I was in graduate school studying this stuff for 2 years before that. And my undergrad was also in speech language pathology, which has a lot to do with voice. That was 4 years before that. So I've been talking about and thinking about these things for 16 years, and still, every time I edit these videos, there are places where I think, ugh, my voice sounds really tense there, and I didn't mean for it to. Or, oh, I like how my voice sounded in that. And so it just goes to show that we have to be very hyper aware in order for it to be perfect all the time. And the goal is not for perfection, but the goal is to aim for the voice and body and face to all be aligned with the words that we're saying to ensure that we're actually coming across and expressing ourselves the way that we intend to. Because then if someone misunderstands or misinterprets what we've said, we can figure out, okay, where was the gap? Where was the miscommunication? But people are less likely to misinterpret what you say if all of those factors are in alignment. But if, for example, you say, oh, no, I really don't want to go. That's confusing. What do you want? You're smiling, you're saying no, but it looks like you're interested. Or same thing, if you're like, yeah, that'd be great, but like you don't want to go. And again, sometimes this happens out of habit. I know plenty of people, and it's happened to me too in the past, where you think they're not excited about something, and it's like, no, I'm actually really excited. I actually remember one year on my birthday, when I was probably 10 or 11 years old, I was so excited for this gift. So excited. But I was nervous or embarrassed to show how excited I was. And so I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you. And my mom was so upset because she was like, I thought you'd be excited. I was like, I am excited. I am. But legitimately, I was excited, but I didn't know how to express that, or I didn't want to. I think I felt embarrassed to show, like, oh my gosh, this is the best gift ever. So I was just like, oh yeah, this is great. This is cool. And then in my room, like, ah. And yeah, I was a child and I was still figuring out my own self-expression, but we do that all the time unconsciously because of the feelings that we have internally. And so when we want to start aligning the way we come across with how we're feeling and get really in touch with how are we feeling, the voice is an amazing gateway to do that, because the voice will betray you. If you think you really like something and then you say something out loud and you realize, oh gosh, maybe I don't actually feel that way. But we often aren't consciously doing that. And so you may think that what you're saying is true, and it's not until you do this deep digging that you realize, oh, I actually don't think I believe that, because my voice is telling me something different. And so that's where you get to have fun and really be a detective and see, is this happening out of habit, or is there an underlying emotion behind this message that I haven't really tapped into? And when you start actually saying the same words with different tones, you'll learn a lot about yourself, and you'll learn a lot about how you're coming across to other people, which you otherwise wouldn't necessarily know. So voice record yourself if you want that extra bit of feedback, because otherwise you're never going to know how you sound to other people. Okay? So that is just a quick exercise that you can do to start getting to know your voice and start expressing yourself with more clarity and alignment. So be sure to leave a comment below and let me know an example of a time when your voice may have betrayed you, or let me know what comes up for you when you do this exercise. This isn't an exercise that I share publicly ever, actually. This is kind of a secret. So I'd be very curious to hear what your experience is doing this on your own without one-on-one guidance of a coach in the room. And I encourage you to watch the next video about how to control your voice in high stress situations, based on an experience that I had emceeing an event and what that did for my voice. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, and share this video with someone who you feel could maybe use a little more awareness on their vocal tone and how they're coming across.